Is it good? Because I think most people, we are all dependent on you to give a good shot at it. Give me a go. Okay. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
I'm good like this. No, but it's good. Nice, Ash. It's something different from what we have seen you all these years.
Yeah.
So, pretty interesting.
I'll try and keep it going.
But please do not copy or do not go Ishant Sharma's way. You know how it will end up.
You mean you don't want a ponytail at the back, right?
That's what I meant, yes.
Exactly what you meant. And you wouldn't want that sledging that he gave Steve Smith in Bangalore test. Is that also something that you want to add on?
एक बार करके तो दिखा तू. I was not there, yaar, but I was not part of that series. But I was watching it. I watched it highlights. I watched it on highlights. They were not talking about the game. The entire game. They didn't talk about the game. They were talking about what Ishant Sharma did to Steve Smith.
And what about what Steve Smith वो जो किया वो भी बहुत funny था.
Oh, not now.
Not now. और पूरा bat
ऐसे कर दिया उसने.
ऐसे किया. And that was a brain fade match as well. So it was quite important. But today we are not going to be talking about that, Rohit.
Yeah.
Okay. Rohit, I'm not sure if you watched this, but this is an episode where I'm going back in time and remembering matches from the past. And clearly, without having to negotiate much with you, I asked you about it and you were more than happy to talk about this game. One of my favorite knocks of yours, there are plenty, but this has to go down as one of the best in ODI history. What do you remember from this game in Bangalore, especially about your batting and the game itself?
Yeah, I know. It was firstly, it was an important series for us because I had just started to open for India at that point. We played Champions Trophy, and then we went to West Indies after that. And then I remember straight after West Indies, it was this tournament which we played against Australia. So, and you know how we like to play against Australia. You want to prove a point, you want to beat them, you want to do so many things with them. So it was a good challenge for me to face that team, and I took it upon as a good challenge. I remember before the first game in Jaipur, UV and I, we went to do a pool session, and I remember him telling me, now this is a great opportunity for you. You just started opening the batting, and you get to face, nearly whatever. You get to face from ball one till the last ball is bowled of your innings. So it's a great opportunity for you to now get big 100 in this series. I was getting 40s, 50s, 70s and all that. In Champions Trophy also you were part of it, and I was getting a couple of 50s I got. And then I couldn't make it a big one, So that was a good talk we had there in the pool. And I told him, I also feel that now that I'm opening the batting, I need to make it big. And I remember the first game we played, we chased 360 in 41 overs.
Yeah, I think Australia won in Pune and we hit them back, right?
Yeah, they won in Pune. Then we won another one, and they won again in Mohali. So it was quite an interesting contest between the two teams because they had a solid team, we had a solid team as well. But Australia is a team, they don't like to give it up so easily wherever they play, and especially when they travel, they like to prove a point as well. So they play, they go that extra mile to win that game or the series. So I remember clearly, it was a hard-fought series, and that Bangalore game was a decider for us. And I never thought I will score a double 100. Yeah. Honestly speaking, I never thought of it. I just wanted to bat. Bangalore, it was a Bangalore pitch and nice and flat. Ball was coming on nicely. And I remember there was a little halt because it rained for a brief period, about half an hour, 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then me and Shikhar, we were not out. We came back in, and Shikhar suddenly, I think after the games started, he got out in the second over. So, it was my responsibility, and then Virat got run out in that game, which was, I don't know whose fault was that, but it was a bad run out, yes. And then, the whole stadium was looking at me. I know. And then Suresh and I had a good partnership again. Then he got out after scoring 30, 40. And then UV got out early. And then MS and I, we batted till the end, almost till 48th over, I think, if I'm not wrong.
You got out only in the last over, I think. Or probably
last or second last over, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, possibly.
Second last over, I got out.
And how did you get out?
You know how it is with MS in the middle. Like he likes to talk. He likes to, keep adding his thought of what he thinks about what I should do. He was telling me, you're the set batsman. I want you to bat till 48th over, 49th over, or 50th over probably, because you are set. You can hit any bowler anywhere you want. So let me take chance at that point. You just take a backseat, take singles, knock off in the gaps, and find odd boundaries if you can. And then I was just thinking, no, I'm seeing the ball really well. I might as well, try and put pressure on the bowlers right here and right now, which was, I think, about 41st over. And I decided to go on from there. And I remember hitting Xavier, and I hit 4 sixes in that over.
Yeah. In fact, I think you hold the record for hitting 4 sixes across different games, right? Consecutively or something like that.
No idea. It was not consecutive. It was 2, and then I hit a boundary, and then another one, and then there was double, and then another 6, I think. 6. Okay. If I remember, I don't remember that exactly, but yeah, that's how it was. And
do you remember the number of sixes you hit in the game?
Yeah, 16.
Yeah, that was then the highest. I don't know if it's been beaten after that.
16 sixes. When I went back inside, someone was telling me, if you would have batted another over or so, you would have broken Virendra Sehwag's record also.
And what was that?
I think it was 219.
It doesn't matter anymore, does it? It's been 3.
Yeah, I know. But imagine the expectations in the dressing room itself. Yeah, they want me to score another 10 runs, 15 runs to get past 219.
Was it by any chance a bowler that gave you that comment?
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, there was 3-4 guys.
Okay.
UV was one of them. And there was one more guy. I don't know. Shikhar tha shayad.
Because you know what, Rohit? I mean, just as you are speaking about it, I remember from about 44th to the 48th over, there was a time when every single ball was either a boundary 6 or a 2. Because MS was running like a hare, and you guys were stitching this partnership. And like, in all honesty, as a bowler watching the game, you feel like you are in this Hunger Games, Okay, guys, the batsmen are coming out here, the swords are out, and you are there to be given. Your neck is going to be chopped off. So any run that you guys were getting extra was obviously going to give the bowlers a better chance.
I know, because see, when I started batting and when we were halfway through our innings, nearly about 25th, 30th over, I realized that this wicket is, flat and ball is travelling. It's a comparatively a little smaller ground than the rest of the grounds in India. So we thought, any score we get here is not going to be safe. I never thought we'll get nearly about 400. I think we got around 400.
380 odd, I think. 380 odd.
390 if I'm not wrong. So I never thought we'll get that much. And once we got that much, we got 390. We said, okay, probably they have a good batting lineup as well. They might come hard and try and put pressure on our bowlers also. Because anyway, 360s, 340s were being chased very easily in that tournament.
Correct.
That series particularly, and that's, if I remember, so far in my ODI career, that's probably has been the run feast tournament I have been part of. Never ever I have played such a high scoring series before this. So every game it was 300 plus.
But do you think the series pattern emerged, or was the batting wickets the wickets were
wickets even now when we play, wickets are good, but the quality of batting, from their side, from our side, was just unbelievable. They had solid batting lineup. We had solid batting lineup, but the bowlers we knew at the start of the tournament only that bowlers will be challenged here because, we had few inexperience in our bowling lineup. They had few inexperience
in their bowling lineup. So either way, it was not so balanced or heavily bowling side from the other side. But we thought, okay, when we played the first game, we thought, okay, it's not going to be. This was the only game probably where the teams have scored 360. I don't think it's going to happen from here on. But second game again we played. I think second game was Mohali.
Nagpur and Mohali both. Yeah.
No. Second game was Nagpur. I think.
Second game was Jaipur, then Mohali, and then Nagpur. I think we kept hitting back, didn't we?
Yeah. First game Pune we lost.
Pune we lost 290 odd. We were chasing and we lost.
I'm confused. I think Jaipur was the first game.
No, Rohit, we lost the first one. We came back in the series. 100%.
Okay. So second was Jaipur. Third one was I think again Mohali.
I'm not sure if it's Mohali or Nagpur, but one of the two, surely.
But even Mohali, we batted first and we got 300. I think MS batted well in that game.
Yeah, he got runs. Yeah, I think we came back. We came back from behind. We looked ahead in the game, and then James Faulkner played that blinder and got.
Yeah, he played he was batting well in that tournament. He batted very well in that series. He got 100 in that game where I got 200 also.
Correct, he did. No, but Rohit, tell me something. What do you remember from the first innings when you ran Virat out? Because there is a little ran in the sense it's not about whose mistake here. That's not where I'm getting at. I don't want fan clubs throwing their chakus at me. But I'm saying when Virat gets run out, there is a trend that you go on to make a big score. What is it? It puts more onus on you?
No, it happened twice. Even when I scored 264, he got run out in that game and I went on to score 264. But in that Bangalore game also, he was on the strike and he punched the ball, if I'm not wrong, from the right-hand side of the bowler.
Correct.
So obviously, your natural tendency when you're at the non-striker end is to go back and save yourself. So I went back, and by the time I turned to see where he was right there. And there was no way I could make it to that side because
Rohit, forget about it. We've all played it, and we know all these things happen. But I'm asking, does it egg you on so that because Virat is gone, does it put the responsibility on you of saying, okay, this 100 also I need to make?
I told you that when I was explaining about it. He got 100 in that game, first game, 50 balls, 100. He was in great form. So obviously, if you lose a player, in that fashion, you want to make it up. Yeah, you don't want to leave it to someone else, and you need guys who are in form to bat as much as possible. And we lost two of the guys. Shikhar was in great form. He got out. He made 60 or 40, if I'm not wrong. I think he made 60 in that game.
Shikhar made 60, correct.
Yeah, and Virat got out cheaply. I don't think he
didn't get off the mark. He played only 2 balls, I think.
So he got out on 0. So obviously it was my responsibility to make sure that I stay till the end, because we always talk about one batter batting through the innings, and we three of us were in great form.
Correct.
Having scored a lot of runs in that series, so I thought, okay, it's my responsibility to make up for anything, but just to be there to score runs and make sure that, okay, now, 2 of our senior players or informed batsmen are out. Now I got to make the most of it. I was thinking like that, yeah.
Actually, this series was only about, Shikhar, yourself, Virat, and to an extent, Maxwell, George Bailey, and maybe Watson. That was where the series was, because it was 3 batters from this side and 3 batters from this side, and in fact, Yuvipa and MS hardly got much to do in this tournament. Yeah, I think Mohali, MS made some runs, but I think he got 100. He might have got 100. I'm not sure. But apart from that, I think it was mostly about the top 3 and the quality of top 3 batting, like you said.
Yeah, MS in that game against, in the game where I got 200, he got 60 or 40 balls.
Yes, correct.
Something like that, yeah.
32 balls, 60 or something.
Yeah. The helicopter was out. Because I could see it from the other end that, okay, wow, this is something. So I saw that, and then the 3 high-scoring games, Jaipur, Nagpur, and Bangalore. Except Bangalore, these 2, Jaipur and Nagpur, 80% of the runs were scored by top 3 batsmen.
Correct.
So that's probably the reason Raina, UV, and MS didn't get to bat so much. in Mohali we were, we were put under pressure. We lost wickets up front, and that's how MS got to bat a lot there, along with UV and Raina as well.
Correct. Rohit, now with batting done, tell me what you remember from the bowling. You put the captain's hat on and tell me what you remember about bowling.
I only remember one funny incident, which was dismissal of Shane Watson.
Okay.
Do you remember what happened? How he got out?
Jaddu caught the catch of Vinay Kumar and Vinay celebrated, right?
No, Jaddu was bowling. He bowled that ball so fast. He bowled that ball so fast. Watson, before he could cut the ball, it hit his inner inside of the bat,
Hit MS's thigh.
MS's thigh, and went to short third.
Correct. I remember it.
I clearly remember, and the run out of George Bailey.
Correct. Vinay Kumar threw it down from the other end.
Correct. He was looking at the bowlers, and by the time he could make it back, the ball was already in MS's hand, and he ran him out. Those are the two incidents. And the third one, I'll tell you, I think it was Maxwell. He hit 1-6 of Vinay Kumar, which hit the scoreboard. Yeah, both bada chakka tha. I think it was more than 100 meters.
Yeah, Maxwell, I think played a blinder, 60 of 20 balls or something.
Yeah, 20 balls, 19 or 20 balls, he got 60, man. So I told you, I mean, we were not sure whether we are going to win this.
Australia was 138 for 6 and Haddon made a 40 and Maxwell made a 60 in that. And from there, Faulkner got the 100 and took them through.
That's what I'm saying. When Maxwell was batting, it was looking very easy for them.
Correct.
And then obviously George Bailey was in the form of his life. Every game he played, he got 50 plus, 70 plus in that series. If I'm not wrong,
I think he got every 90 or something like that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So if I was like, okay, they've got him to come. Now there's Watson who's going to come. Faulkner, Haddon, and all these guys. So it's not going to be that easy for us. And then, like you said, 130 for 6. We thought, okay, now it's done. Now probably we can, take it a little bit easier. We can breathe. But then this guy came, Faulkner, and again.
Any idea why Watson came down the order, Rohit? Because I kept on checking again and again, and I couldn't find a reason why.
Maybe they wanted him to bat towards the end. They thought the game might go a little close towards the end, so they might need, along with Faulkner, they might need someone else. Probably that's what they were thinking, if I'm not wrong, I guess.
Do you also remember the fourth instance where Shami dropped the catch at deep mid wicket?
Yeah. I remember that. Deep wicket it was.
Of Faulkner.
He ran the usual Shami way, and he thought he's going to take that very easily, and he dropped it.
Can you shake the head like how he shakes usually?
Not really. Leave it when we meet, and I can do that. But I mean, we all were so pissed at him, seriously, because we thought, okay, this is this is going to be tough now for us, because and a guy like him batting the way he was, and you drop a catch at that point, you start thinking about so many things then, and the last thing we wanted was to drop anyone's catch, especially Faulkner.
Correct.
I remember we dropped him at Mohali and he made us pay for it.
He won the game. He won the game.
He won the game. He got 70, 80 something, I think. It's just 40 balls, 40, 45 balls. Hit Ishant Sharma for 4-6 in 1 over.
Okay, you basically covered the entire match and made my work very, very easy.
I know.
Now I'm going to get to a slightly lighter part. Okay, tell me, where did this name Hitman come from? Were you a fan of the Hitman Heart?
Came in that game.
Correct. That's exactly why I'm asking you.
Yeah, 2000. 209 when I scored that runs, and I was walking back to the pavilion, and obviously they called me for the flash interview after the innings got over, and I was really very tired. Yeah, I told. I don't remember who the media manager was. I told him I can't go now. Please take someone else. He said, no. This is kind of a record, so you have to come, and it goes worldwide and all that. So I said, okay, chalo, I'll come. I went down. I'm sure you know who this guy is. You know PD, right?
PD, yeah, correct. The broadcasting producer.
Yeah, the Chahal's younger brother or older brother. So he was there. He told me, "Oh man, you played like a hitman. You are a hitman."
Oh, okay.
That's how it started. And then, Ravi Bhai was there towards the end of the presentation, and he told me, he introduced like that. Oh, they call him a hitman. I think I was man of the series in that tournament. So he was interviewing me, and he called me hitman, and that's how it started.
But did you go back and check as to who Hitman was? Have you watched WWE when you were younger?
Yeah, of course, Bret Hart.
Right.
It's one of my favorite. Yeah, that guy.
It's great then. It's great.
I
Okay.
love
Rohit,
it.
yeah, I actually put a promo of that today. Many of them were asking me whether it was going to be Hitman himself was going to come. Anyway, but it was far.
You've taken this chat and show thing very seriously, man.
I've taken it. I mean, like anything in life, I do it properly. So
That's great.
I think it needs to
That's
be.
a good learning for people who are watching.
Why do you say that?
No, it's right. I mean, you do whatever you do it properly, right? I mean, don't leave any stone unturned.
Sure. Okay, Rohit. Now to the fun part and my most looked after part for the day. It's going to be the chapter that I'm going to open of Mumbai Indians with you. Okay. A little fun also, nothing very serious. But tell me something, Rohit. Wearing the captain's hat, you came over to Mumbai from Deccan Chargers. In fact, it was a trade, if I'm not wrong. You came over. It was a trade, right?
No. I was bought in the auction, the main auction in 2011.
Okay, right. So you came over to Mumbai. Obviously, the connect is there. But tell me, when you landed up being the captain of Mumbai, what was it like? What were you going through? Were you learning on the job from Ricky? What was it?
See, Ash, to be honest, I was made vice captain in 2009 in Deccan Chargers. So I was given that responsibility with that team there. So I used to be thinking about, if I'm the vice captain, I have to think about how I can help Gilly and how I can suggest him, especially about the Indian players, because there were so many unknown players in the team, and what are their strengths, what do they like to do, and when put under pressure, how they react and all that. So all those information was very, very crucial at that stage for Gilly. So I started putting that vice captaincy hat long back actually, and it was great fun for me to also learn about my game and how I talk about cricket, how I talk about various stuff related to cricket, analyzing player, analyzing his strength, weaknesses and all that. And when I came to Mumbai also, they didn't announce me as a vice captain. Obviously, Paji was there, and then Bajjupa was vice captain. But I was always in that core group of Mumbai, even from my first year. So they used to call me about certain queries if they had in the squad. That was that. And then 2013, we got Ricky Ponting in the auction. And Paji at that stage, I think it was 2012 when Paji said, I don't want to captain anymore, and Bajjupa was made captain. And then in 2013 season, I don't know what happened, Bajjupa was not the captain. So I thought it could be me. But they got Ponting, obviously, I mean, because he was in the auction. Yeah, he was in the auction, but I was thinking before the auction, there is nobody else. I think it might be me. So I started thinking in my head back then only that, okay, boss, this might come my way and I need to be ready for it. Then I remember I was part of, I think Oja was the one who we traded from DC. I was very much part of that.
That was going to be a question anyway.
Yeah, I was part of that trade, and that's how I realized, okay, I might be the captain this year. Who knows? And then during the auction, we got Ponting. So obviously, I thought, okay, chalo. I can't compete with Ponting. But yeah, with being with him, how he handled the team in the first 6 games, even before, he was the first one to arrive in India, much before any other domestic player also. You can imagine his passion, you can imagine his, energy. Like he wanted to feel the team, he wanted to come and understand each and everybody. He was the one who called the shot, and he said, I want to first have a team bonding session with all of them. And you know what the team bonding session was? It was like 4 players sitting together, and let's say if you and I are sitting in front, so what you have to do is you have to talk good things about your player. So I will talk positive about you, Ashwin. I like your off spinner. I like when you started bowling carom ball. So it's good things about you. You always feel good when you listen about yourself, right? So in a way, it made a very positive impact
On everybody.
on everybody. Like imagine Ponting was in my group, and there were 2 youngsters from domestic cricket. Now Ponting is telling them, I watched your video. You look solid, man. You can go way up. You can if you handle the pressure, if you handle this, if you handle that, you will reach where you want to reach. So imagine what that youngster will be feeling. So that was him. So it started from there, and then obviously he was not hitting the ball well. He was not scoring runs. So he said, "Okay, I have to take myself off from this job and let someone else take it." And there were debate about Dinesh Karthik was also part of the team. So some people were thinking, okay, we can go to Dinesh, but eventually Ponting called me up and he said, we want you to take the team ahead from here, and I know you've got solid game sense and all that. You will do a good job. Okay. So it started from there, and then more or less, Ponting actually was player come coach. He became player come coach after that, and he was always there to help me. He was always, he always stood in front if there was anything, if there was any issues or whatever. He stood in front. And over the years, 2014, 2015, and 2016, 3 years we worked with him. I worked with him, and I just feel he's the guy from a different planet when it comes to motivating players, understanding what that player has in him, and bring the best out of that player. He's the best in that. The judgment of all these characters, he's so good at it. So good at that. And obviously, I want to finish saying that he's won 2 championships, 2 World Cups he's won. So he knows how to win big championship. And
Correct.
That to me was a great part about him.
This internship of having been with Ricky Ponting is something that's priceless, which we have spoken off air as well, where we have discussed about it, how much ever we have discussed about it. But tell me something. What's your engine room like? When I say engine room, what is Rohit Sharma, the captain, like? Planning oriented, trust oriented on players, going out there and following strategies, depending on the engine room or depending on players. What is it? Because a lot of players that play under you tend to, give you the credit of saying, even the other day I was watching Mayank Markandeya speak. He was saying that, Rohit Bhai gave me the ball and said, I'm there for you, just bowl the ball, That's sort of a reassurance in the game. Do you work with them from practice onto the game and into the engine room of planning? Or how is it? Do you let them do what they want and then take over on the field?
Yes, see, firstly, I try and understand what that individual is all about, whether, if given an opportunity, whether he'll be able to take the pressure or not. And if not, how can I help him to take that pressure? And it starts with all the senior players in the squad. And obviously starts with the captain first. So I think for me, that became more important rather than my batting and the other things. This became to me like, the top priority. I have to manage to get the best out of my players, and then I will think about what I want to do with the bat. And that's how I moved forward in all my seasons. And with the help of solid support staff also, it does help. I've got solid bunch of support guys with me, and they're genius. And the major part in this has played by DJ. Because I ask him and he gives me what I want. I will ask him about, Mayank Markandeya, for example, if he's bowling in this situation, what is the likelihood of him or the batsman to put him under pressure? How will he respond, or whether he's got that skills or not, or if he doesn't have the skill, what can we do with him to make sure that he doesn't feel the pressure, he just comes and bowls.
Okay, so you do go back onto practice sessions and try and simulate matches with the bowlers and then bring them onto the game.
Yeah,
Do that?
I slyly talk to them about, Mayank, tomorrow I'm thinking, these are the batsmen you're going to be bowling at. So I feel that, I want you to bowl in the power play. I want you to bowl in the power play, whether it's the first over, second over, third over, fourth over, I don't care. But it'll be in the power play, so which means the ball will be nice and hard. There will be few shots hit, but don't get carried away. Don't feel any pressure. Just come and bowl the leg spinner that you bowl. Okay, and I'm not expecting you to do wonders. I am not expecting anything. Just take the ball and bowl the delivery. That's it. I don't want to. I don't want you to do anything else. Because I have seen, when we came into the team and how we felt when we were 20 years old. When you're facing guys like Mitchell Johnson, Brett Lee, Dave Steyn, all these guys in your first experience, you know how it is. It's quite intimidating. And for all these guys also who are playing the IPL for the first time, they feel the same. They feel that they feel the stage is too big. And I've never been in that situation. I've never been in a bigger stage like this. So what if somebody hits me back-to-back sixes? What am I supposed to do? And this is what I do. Before the team meeting, I sit with DJ for an hour and we discuss about all these things. And he's got his input, and I then come and discuss what we need to do, especially with the younger players. See, senior players will take care of their job on its own. They obviously they know what to do and how to handle the pressure for the first time. They will not. And these are the guys you want to be in the best form for you to win the championship. Your senior 6-7 guys will take care of their performances and they will take care of their body. They'll do whatever is necessary. But it's the other 3-4 guys who are new in the team. There will be a batsman, there will be a bowler. So how you manage those 3-4 guys is very, very crucial. That is what I've learned in the entire IPL that I've played.
Okay. Now to a slightly lighter tone. Like you said, DJ, as soon as you spoke about DJ has left me a message. He asked me to ask you, how do you feel about the poor pav on the pav bhaji that you buy from Shiv Sagar during the IPL at 3 o'clock in the night? And how does the pav feel enough? Is there enough around Mumbai for you to order?
What is that? I don't understand.
He's saying that every night at 2 o'clock or 2:30 in the night, you order pav bhaji from Shiv Sagar, and there is a routine. He says, along with a lot of other routines that he follows for victory, he says you watch a movie at late night sleeping with 3-4 guys in the theatre next to Trident. Then he also says that you have
he's
your
one of them.
That's exactly
one
what
of
he's
them.
saying.
Yeah.
And he also says that the 2:30 pav bhaji is extremely critical for you to be able to make the right decisions on the ground.
No matter what, 2:30, no chance, man. But yeah, I've been out a couple of times. We've gone on to that famous place near Chowpatty. It's one of the best pav bhajis you get there. I've been there few times. But yeah, now obviously I've got if he doesn't know, I've got a little one who is in the house, probably sleeping at that point, or me and Ritika, we both are trying to put her to sleep. So there is no chance, or there is no way of going and eating pav bhajis anymore after midnight.
Rohit, now that you posted it, how long does it take for you to put the little one to sleep? Or is she like good and goes to sleep quickly?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's a tough one.
Do you sleep in the process as well sometimes?
I have. When she was young, I have actually. When they are at that stage of burping, when they feed the milk and they have to be burped, and it's in the middle of the night, you're tired, you want to sleep, you're sleeping, and obviously, I can't let Ritika do everything. So I used to take that responsibility of burping in the night. But yeah, of course, I've gone on to sleep, and I have not realized until Samaira has started to drift away from me, man. So then I realized, okay, I can't be. So now after that day, I started walking now, because before that I was in the bed doing that. So when you're in the bed, you're relaxed, you're comfortable. So I decided I'm not going to sit and do it. I have to be on my feet. Yeah.
See, I don't know as a batsman how you feel about it, Rohit, but as a bowler, constantly when you have somebody nicking off and the catch is referred to the third umpire, no?
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to see if the catch is carried and it will be given out. That's exactly how I used to feel putting the child to burp, you know? Like once that burp comes out, I feel the decision has been made. That's how I used to sit in the nights waiting for the burp. So I completely empathize with you.
Such a relief that you get when they burp and when they go to sleep, and especially when you put them to sleep. And that has been my goal in this lockdown, actually, to put her to sleep. I was not good at this. This was the only thing, I was lacking behind. I was not able to put her to sleep. I rest everything I can do. I was actually doing. But putting her to sleep is something that I couldn't figure out. Because obviously that's the reason, I'll tell you, is because for 1.5 years, she was away, and even when she was with us on tour, I mean, I used to go to sleep, or she used to go to sleep early, like around 9:30, and that's the time you are out for dinner. Especially I'm talking of the World Cup when she was there. So I never really had an opportunity to be with her and put her to sleep. Because she used to go to sleep at 9 o'clock, and 9 o'clock is when you finish your dinner, so it's too early. And I didn't do it. Now I'm at home, and I've tried it on many occasions. I've tried it before also, but I did it once in the afternoon, but in the night I just couldn't do it. So that is, hopefully by the end of the lockdown, I hopefully should be able to.
No, before we get into that part of lockdown and COVID, I want to ask you one final question about your routines during the IPL and in fact, when I became the captain of Kings 11, I wanted to follow success patterns. I've been at CSK. Then Mumbai is another successful franchisee. So I actually called up DJ and a couple of other people in Mumbai and asked them, what does Rohit do? How does he manage the whole thing? You need to handle the franchisee, you need to meet with the owners, you need to talk to them. There's so much more that you need to do around the job. Then he gave me 2 insights, Rohit. I'm going to give you the first insight. He said usually meetings happen inside the boardroom, but Rohit and our owner meet during Bel Puri at midnight. Okay? That's one thing he told me. And the second thing, that's what he told me. And the second thing he told me will make more significance for you. He said that Rohit has never come to the breakfast in the history of IPL, but ever since Samaira's birth, we found him at breakfast last year.
Absolutely. That's right, yes. That's right. Because, I'll answer the second one first.
Okay.
The breakfast one. I'll say because it's true that I've never been to breakfast table in the entire IPL history, especially at Trident. Never. That's because of so many other reasons. We never sleep on time. You get back from the game itself around 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, yeah.
After midnight. So it's like I need my 9 to 10 hours of sleep, man. I can't do it without that. There has been days where it was traveling day for us, and we had to travel. So I've woken up early, but I've still gone into the bus without eating anything. So I used to go and eat at the airport or in the flight. And since Samaira was born, I used to sleep with her during. I know the timing that she goes to sleep and all that. So I used to somehow manage to sleep with her and wake up with her, because once she's up, you're not going to get your sleep.
Correct.
She'll be all over you. So you better make sure. Otherwise, you're stuck. And especially for me, I'm the captain, and with Mumbai Indians, we are half of our time we spend in the meeting. So I need to be fresh and energetic
for the meetings. But what about the first one? He said the meetings are very brief, and Rohit loves the street food in Mumbai, and he generally meets up with all the owners and the staff for a Bel Puri outside Trident.
I don't know. That's.
He's making up some stories, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. That's rubbish, because I don't meet them for Bel Puri. You're talking about. Who you're talking about. I don't meet them for Bel Puri and all that. Yes, of course we meet them for our strategy meetings and all that happens with them. But we purely discuss about the team, what should we play, what shouldn't we play, why are we dropping X, Y, Z or whatever. It's purely that. It's nothing else.
Great. Okay, Rohit, now you've answered most of my questions. I'm very happy the way it's going, and you've taken most of the honors, and thank you for doing it. In these times, I think it's going to put a lot of positivity into people's, the way they're thinking. They're finding it difficult to, cope up with it. How are you going? How's the situation in Maharashtra? How's it in Mumbai? Are you missing playing the game? What are you doing?
The situation in Maharashtra is not, it's not great right now. I mean, everybody who are in position to talk are talking about various things like following the rules and regulations and all that. And we have done so many promotions to make sure that people stay indoors and all that. Now it's up to the people, man. We can't really do much more than that. And the cops here in Mumbai, you have to just bow down to them because the amount of effort they have put in. I could see it from here. Every day they are on the field, making sure that no one comes out. Going around each lane, making sure that the lane is following the discipline and all that. Because we have a lot of lanes, small lanes. And that is where people try and come out and start creating nuisance. So that is where the cops have been very strict here, and they're making sure that all these people stay inside. It's like it's on us now. We can't blame anyone else. What has to happen has happened. From here on now, we have to control the situation. If we don't engage, if we stay away from people, so maintain social distancing and all of that, this thing can be contained. I'm not saying it's going to go forever, but at least it will be contained. And also we have to try and remember there are little things that we need to remember while even if we go out for grocery shopping and all that, we need to remember there are 2 or 3 entry points of COVID. One is our nose, mouth, and eyes. These are the 3 entry points. If we manage to, even if we touch something and if we manage to keep our hands away from the face, half the battle is won even if we go out and come back inside.
Like you said, Rohit, you pointed out rightly in the first half where you said, all these things have been put out there. A lot of people have spoken. We have spoken about it. Every celebrity has come out and spoken, taken to social media. But it is a high sense of luxury for a lot of people to keep social distancing. There are people who are out there who are struggling to make ends meet and struggling for every meal in their day, who are actually going out right now to make a living for themselves. So that's where I think people who can afford the social distancing must stay away and allow these people to go and work. So if everybody is on the road, then it's going to create a mess. In fact, I read one article where I'm sure you're aware of the 1918 Spanish flu, where there was quarantine and all that. And the moment the quarantine was lifted, everybody thronged the streets and it went up by 5%, the infected number of people. So I think those who can afford can still continue to be exercising caution. And I'm seeing how Maharashtra is, even Tamil Nadu is. I think these are all proper red zones. We need to be able to support the rest of the country to be able to curtail it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there are a lot of engagements that happens in the metro cities. So for us, we need to be extra careful than the other cities. The tier 2, tier 3 and all that. We just need to be little sensible and little understanding of the situation. See, government is trying everything they can. They have still opened up a lot of arenas, a lot of spaces in different parts have been opened up. And we need to understand and not get frustrated. Lockdown doesn't mean that you've been held or you've been asked. This is not a crime. We are doing it for our future generation and making sure that our future is secured. If we stay indoors now, we can move outdoors pretty soon. It's as simple as that. And I hope people can understand this very soon and live with it, because if we don't, it's not going to go anywhere.
Sure. Rohit, thank you so much. And before we close, I just want to ask you how I leave this quoting in Marathi saying "Stay safe, stay home." How do I say it in Marathi?
Stay safe or
stay home. Stay home, stay safe.
घरी बसा, आरामात
Gari
बसा.
basa.
आरामात.
What?
घरी बसा, आरामात बसा.
Gari basa, aramat basa. That's easier than Punjabi, I
आरामात
think.
बसा means आराम से, just take it
Aram
easy.
se. Right.
आराम से. आणि घरी मतलब घर, your house.
So the
घरी
one thing that
बसा.
I learned, I wanted to ask you was tu kasa hai at the first. I forgot it obviously. So that's it. Yeah. So thank you so much, Rohit. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a pleasure, and thank you so much for taking the load off me as well.
No
Have a
worries,
good night.
man. Thanks.
Regards to Ritika and Samaira.
Yeah, thanks. Hope your two little daughters are doing all right, and Preeti as well.
I mean, we are actually thankful for the first time that we have two. They're entertaining themselves to a
Oh,
certain degree.
That helps a
To a
lot.
certain degree.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, it does. Right. See you, man. Good
Bye.
night.
Take
Good
care.